What's going on, guys? This is Empty Box, and this is Assetto Corsa, where today we're going to be taking a look at Porsche pack number 2, specifically the 962C. Oh, buddy! More Group C. Oh, yeah, oh, yeah, oh, yeah. We're going to be driving around the Nürburgring in the autumn version, which you can find a link down below. There's a couple of different mods and things going on here in this video, because I decided, hey, you know what, I've been hitting the AC a little bit hard recently. So let's go ahead and get things a little bit more to my liking. So you can find that stuff down in the description. But oh joy, more Group C. It's the 962. How can't you like that? It's only like, you know, the freaking best car ever, you know. Yeah! Alrighty, we're going to be racing here at the Nürburgring. Actually, going to be racing online. A lot of people have been asking, why don't I race online in Assetto Corsa more? And it largely comes down to the fact that everybody's driving GT3 cars or doing Nürburgring track days, and yeah. But hey, we're doing Nürburgring track days here today. We're driving the 962 Short Tail, because this server is Porsche Pack 2. It looks like we got some 962s up there ahead of us, so maybe we can get a little impromptu battle pack going on. Although we already got one guy going off, which is always a lovely sign. But this server does have damage turned off, as well as tire wear and fuel usage. Oh joy, track day server, right? Get the brakes, get on the power. Now there is also the long tail version of the 962C available. Conveniently enough, that's what is in front of me right now. Has a bit of a different cockpit. It's a little bit less maneuverable, but it does have a bit more top end speed, thanks to the long tail bodywork. Now the short tail doesn't have adjustable boost, the long tail does. However, the long tail at 100% boost, which is the default, has 1.3 bar of boost, whereas the short tail, without its adjustable boost, has 1.3 bar of boost by default. So I don't think it's really a power difference. So I got $1 on this guy going off track here, top of the hill. Let's see, will I lose $1 or not? Apparently not. Hey, well held. Seems like everybody on every single track day server I've ever been to here in Assetto Corsa goes off there. This guy might maybe actually know what he's doing enough. Said he is driving kind of slow. So let's see if we can find a way by him. So that white car is getting away. That's no bueno. Alright, we need to get by this guy, because I know we can. There we go. Should have it. So let's really get on it, catch up to this white car as fast as possible. This car is a blast to drive. part of the 1.10 update that released alongside this Porsche Pack 2. The Sauber C9 also got the version 10 tire model, the latest and greatest within Assetto Corsa. So make sure you go ahead and try that out. Because it definitely has changed the car a good bit. He's probably waiting up for his buddy, and I'm not waiting up for you. As we try and take a car that's just way too friggin' wide through the carousel. Seriously, the car is so wide it doesn't really fit through the carousel. Whoa. Really have to be careful of the curbs in this car. You know, some cars you can really just get away with abuse. But in this thing, it's just so low that you touch the curb, it's going to shoot you out in the other direction entirely. Bit of understeer through this corner. It's actually one of the trickiest corners on the course with this car, in my opinion. Dab the brake a little bit just to keep the car down a bit. Very important to keep it in as tight as possible. Look for the orange bit there. A good reference to key off of. One last corner to complete the lap of the tourist layout here. And that will do it. And now you guys know I generally don't bother with Assetto Corsa online, because people are either driving GT3 cars or just driving too slow in actual cars. Oh, looks like we got a GT3 RS here. Let's pull up here, see if those guys in the 962 are going to come through. That way we can pass them again. So let's see here. Waiting. Hope I gave those guys enough room. Alrighty. Doesn't look like they're coming, so let's just go ahead and let's just go. I waited for him. I waited. This car is just so enjoyable to drive, though. Such a rocket ship. Proper manly man car, you know? So we're gonna wait for this guy. I get the feeling he doesn't know what he's doing. It's a feeling I get a lot whenever I go into an open server. Which way you going? Car has like 500 horsepower. Please use more than 50. Alright guys. Oh no, I've invalidated my lap time. Whatever will we do? But anyways, I want to go ahead and do a little topical commentary here. I want to talk about spools, because it has come up and been asked about a time or two in recent days here on this channel, because of the fact that a couple of these cars do use spools in the rear end as their differential, although it's not a differential, couple people have been wondering, why in the world would you do that? Because in theory, it makes no sense. You know, you shouldn't do that because that's bad. But a spool is basically a way of creating a fully locked, all the time differential. You know, limited slip differential. Now, to sort of understand this, let's just go ahead and talk about what a differential is. So for a car to turn, the inside and outside tires have to be doing different speeds. The outside tire has to do a faster speed than the inside tire. If you want an easy way to think about this, think of a tank. They don't have wheels that turn like a car where you can turn the steering wheel. They have to independently vary the speed of the tracks to get the tank to actually turn. So that's where the differential is, that's what it does. If you have an open differential, that means that there's no mechanical force trying to keep the drive wheels, in this case, the rear tires, keep them doing the same speed from one another if it's an open differential or unlocked. Now what this means is when you get on the power, one of the wheels is likely to get basically all of the power and go up in smoke. That is almost always going to be the inside rear tire, the tire with the least loading, really therefore the least amount of grip. And we got a surprise 919 out of nowhere. So go ahead and pull over here. Go. No way we're going to keep up with anyone who is halfway competent. Yeah, 919 driving this thing. But so when the differential is unlocked, or if you're running an open differential, which has no locking, the rear axle in this case would be allowed to do whatever speed, and the power would be routed as such, generally to the inside rear tire, where there's the least amount of grip, least loading. Now if you have a locking differential, or a limited slip differential, which essentially seeks to lock the differential up, that's going to provide a force that's going to try and lock the two rear wheel speeds together and send power to both rear wheels, which means the power is going to both tires. You got better grip coming off the corner, better acceleration. You're not wasting that power spinning up the inside rear tire. And that is the way to go. Now, essentially what a limited slip differential does is control how much locking you get, how much unlocking you get, to enable the car to be, essentially unlocked differential-wise, as well as locked when it is relevant. Because if you keep them unlocked, the car can be more maneuverable because the rear tires aren't basically stuck doing the same speed, so the car can actually turn better. Now, of course, obviously that has the downside of having no grip coming off of the corner, such as an open differential. Now, why would you use a spool, which is essentially a fully locked differential all the time, in simple terms? And it comes down to a multitude of factors. With the 91730, it's well known that Mark Donohue preferred a car with a locked differential. And given that he did the development work, he was the planned driver for that car. It's not surprising that that is what he wanted. As well as, fast forward a little bit, reliability. Obviously, we've been talking about cars from the 70s, from the 80s here recently with the Porsche pack, in terms of, spools. And, the technology just wasn't necessarily there to create a differential that would last a race distance and not deteriorate because they are mechanical components. So it could have been deemed beneficial to have all the locking all the time, regardless, because at least then it won't wear out, and plus it's generally one less thing to break. On top of that, there's also the fact that because both rear wheels are essentially locked, receiving power all the time, if there were to be an event, an endurance race, where you snapped a half shaft, which is what sends the power from the rear end out to the rear wheels. If you were to snap a half shaft, then at least you'd be able to limp back to the pits, because the tire that still has drive, the half shaft that's still good, would still be able to receive the power. You know, obviously in a 24-hour endurance race nowadays, I mean, that seems totally crazy, but with the age of these cars, you know, mechanical failures happen a lot. You know, it's something that had to be accounted for. And by running with a simpler component that maybe was inferior to what technically could be done, it could actually provide a benefit over the course of a 24-hour race. And then you finally come to the fact that it might actually have been a secret weapon, and why these cars actually were so competitive and so strong. You know, for example, let's think of the 935, car with a spool in it. It's basically a 911 turned up to 12. Now, we all know about the historic 911s and, you know, their handling oddities and how they were supposedly so super dangerous and totally flawed in many ways. Now, by having a fully locked differential, essentially, or lack thereof, which is what it really is, it very well could have actually tamed the rear of the car, in that case, on corner entry. Could have tamed the rear of the car on corner entry in particular, and really helped the driver have more confidence to push the car. You know, it's one of those things where you think about it, and from a modern standpoint, you would never consider running a spool in the car. I mean, Porsche, you know, is not going to put a spool in the 919 because that would just be totally stupid, given the materials and everything and the technology. It's, you know, making a differential last 24 hours is not the same type of problem that it would have been in, you know, the early 80s with the first 956s and the 962 later on in that same decade. And, you know, again with the 962, which still has a spool in it, you know, it very well could have helped to calm the rear end down, make the car more straightforward to drive. So these cars were considered by Group C standards to be a little bit on the easier side compared to some of the other cars in the running at the time. And, you know, obviously they were very popular with customer racing teams. You know, Porsche sold well over 100 of these. I always get that corner wrong. But, you know, if you think about it, car that's more stable, perhaps a bit more friendly, driver can maybe push a little bit harder, have more confidence in the car, especially a, you know, less talented driver. You know, then you might actually have something. Might not actually be as crazy as you might think. And then obviously if you look at, you know, just a track map of Le Mans back in the 80s, you know, there's not a lot of corners there. You know, it's not the track that it is today, where you have the chicanes and all this extra stuff going on. It basically has twice as many corners today as it did back then. So, you know, handling wouldn't be at, you know, near the same premium that it would be today. But really, it's not that big of a problem. There is understeer, but you really got to keep your foot in it and drive with your right foot, because essentially, to get the differential speed, to get the car to turn, you have to drive the car hard, because essentially you're counting on the chassis to actually flex. And that to give you your speed differential between the left and rear tires, or left and right tires, as well as a stagger effect because the contact patch is changing. Although not sure which one's more important, but just to give you a general idea of what's going on. Again with the carousel. So difficult because this car is so incredibly wide. So it sounds crazy, but maybe not so much. But I do believe later on in life, as you got into the early 90s, certain teams did start replacing the spool in the 962 with limited slip differentials, which are definitely superior. It's just a matter of making it last. Just an interesting little bit of tidbit there. You know what? I think I'm going to remain silent here for the rest of the lap. Let you guys listen to the sounds. Even with a 20-second advantage, hitting a 611 is still going to be next to impossible. I think you're going to actually have to be pretty good if you want to beat that mark. But anyways, roll on the trackside replay camera. Hope you guys enjoyed. Bye.